Labor Talks was John DeRozier, recorded at Chippewa Valley Community Television in Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
Hello and welcome to Labor Talks. My name is still John DeRozier, and our very special guest today is Sheriff Ron Cramer, who needs no introduction, even though I'm doing that just now. Now, Ron, your birthday is September the 12th.
It's coming up here shortly.
First of all, how old are you? And second, welcome to Labor Talks.
Well, thank you, John, for inviting me. Yeah, I'm 61 years old. I'm the youngest in our family, and looking to celebrate. My brother's coming home from out in Virginia, and we're going to get together and kind of celebrate my birthday together.
And just how are we going to celebrate your birthday?
I think he's going to take me out to supper, and he says he'll pick up the tab. So he knows us poor sheriffs, you know.
Okay. How long have you been sheriff of Eau Claire County?
Elected in '96, 19 years in this term, and I'm in my first year of a 4-year term now, and got elected in 1996.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like yesterday.
Yes, it does, to both of us. And why did you initially run for the position?
Well, back in '96, there was a discussion about the expansion of the jail with the previous sheriff, and electronic monitoring was a discussion that was open. I was currently in the drug unit at the time, and I had a business person approach me and said, I know you, I've known you for many, many years, and I think that we need some new leadership at the sheriff's office, because it appears that the current sheriff is bumping heads with the county board. Some things were coming out, and I decided to sit down, and it was a family decision, really, to sit down with the wife and the family and say that this is a big undertaking. Anyone that runs for political office, there's a lot of work behind the scenes that the average citizen doesn't see, and really you have to involve your whole family, because they're part. You need somebody to keep your levity while you're going through the process, and you need somebody when the tough times come up that you can share things with and stay on an even keel.
Anything else you'd like to add, like what really happened to the former sheriff? Do you want to talk about that at all?
Well, he had some personal issues of himself that he had to deal with. And I think one of the things that we could see is we could offer a better package than what was currently there, and with some new vision. I was fortunate enough to work in 6 different counties. I get to see different law enforcement styles, building partnerships through the Drug Task Force, and those partnerships even last today. With Sheriff Kowalczyk, I worked with Sheriff Kowalczyk from Chippewa County. He's now the sheriff, and Dennis Smith, the sheriff in Dunn County. Him and I went to recruit school together. Jeff Burnett, the captain of the State Patrol, worked with him when he was a up-and-coming sergeant of the Wisconsin State Patrol, and all of those relationships have blossomed. And I'm a big advocate that there's no sheriff's department or police department that you can do it all by yourself. You have to establish those partnerships when the stuff hits the fan. We had a 2-day manhunt, and we were talking before we got started here that you need to be able to call on people that come help you and trust in the value of what they can bring to the table to help you with. We had the 2-day manhunt, and we didn't get a bill we had 200 officers, 30 different jurisdictions, and we did not get a bill from any of those jurisdictions, because they know someday down the road that we're going to have to help them.
So it's called effective networking then?
It really is, and it's networking 101. And I know many times when you were on the county board that I'd call you with an issue that was near and dear to us that was coming up to give you our perspective and that's what you have to do, is reach out to your elected people and your legislators when things are going bad or when they're going good. I like to hear the good with the bad.
Mm-hmm. What do you appreciate most about being sheriff, and what do you appreciate least about being sheriff?
I think our community, I have to say first and foremost, we're sitting in a place that I used to work at. I used to work at Uniroyal before they closed the doors. I was schooled right across the river here at Boyd's School, would walk to school at Central Junior High, Memorial, then finally Technical College. And I really went to the technical college for a machine tool background, and I rode with my brother one evening as a police officer, and I said, I think I'm in the wrong area. I really enjoy this interacting with the public, and I think that's the most enjoyable part as I go into the grocery store, as I go into a restaurant. I get feedback, and I like feedback, whether it's good or bad. I think that's what makes us better is when you get good, honest feedback from the public. And I think I've had an open door policy since being sheriff. That's what I like about being sheriff is being able to talk with the public. The bad part, I will tell you, the budget sessions every year, I lose sleep over. We have to put, like this year, we're probably going to start out probably $590,000 in the hole before we even start the budget. But we've been able to save our deputy sheriffs in the past. They haven't had to cut them, but through attrition, we've reduced, our numbers. That's the toughest part of having to tell someone, and we're going to lay you off, and knowing full well that they have a family or whatever. But we've been able to work through those situations through attrition. We haven't actually had to lay anybody off since I've been sheriff.
Now, I understand that meth is making some have a comeback here in Eau Claire County. Is that accurate?
It is, John. I think we've seen the changes from the mom and pop operation with anhydrous ammonia. The farmers would have an anhydrous ammonia tank out, and they'd steal the anhydrous off the tank and make methamphetamine. It'd be a lab. They'd go to the hardware store and buy the precursors. Now what we're seeing is the Mexican cartel through the Twin Cities. We're getting all of our methamphetamine, probably I say 99.9% of our meth is coming through the Twin Cities route up from Texas, distributed in from the Twin Cities, and we've had good luck with the West Central Drug Task Force doing conspiracy cases and tying it back to the Twin Cities. We're currently working with the folks across the river, identifying some of the major dealers across the river, so our intel is being utilized in Minnesota to take off some of the major sources of methamphetamine.
Now, you just touched on what the Sheriff's Office is doing to combat this meth invasion. Can you give me any more details without calling in the bad guys?
Yeah, I think just recently in the Western District of Wisconsin, we have a federal court, and we've had our folks indict some of the bigger people through the federal. We just had a local gal that is 38 years old. She was responsible for a kilo and a half of methamphetamine over a given period of time in the Eau Claire area. She was indicted, and now she's been sentenced to 10 years in federal prison. But you think of what a kilo and a half is, that's 2.2 pounds plus the half pound of methamphetamine, so almost 3 pounds of methamphetamine in the Eau Claire area, and they dole it out at a gram a piece, and there's 454 grams in a pound. So how many doses did she get? The pyramid method of the number of people, it's extraordinary, John, and it's the hardest hitting drug that we've seen, the hardest drug for people to get away from. The addiction level is tremendous. But fortunately, and you talked about what are we doing to combat it, Gary King, our DA, has brought together a methamphetamine work group, and we're trying to identify through our drug courts that are currently up and operating for women with children, the AIM court or the drug court itself. It's an 18-month long process. If they can stay sober there, maybe we have a chance that they won't recycle back into the methamphetamine network. But there's a lot of folks that don't want the help, and it isn't until they really hit bottom that we're able to do much for them.
Yeah. Now, you were talking earlier about cooperation between the respective sheriffs. Was it cooperation strictly between Eau Claire, Chippewa, and Dunn, or were other counties involved?
There are other counties, and I think we started out with just like our collaboration for our drug unit was 6 counties, with Clark County, Pepin, Buffalo County. Buffalo and Pepin don't have large departments, so they call on our drug unit to do a lot of the investigation, and then they'll help us if we have search warrants in their county. But again, it's widespread in western Wisconsin. The jurisdictional lines, the drug dealer doesn't stop at that jurisdictional lines, so we work together in collaboration. Our investigators share the names through a database. They target dealers. We're not looking for the user. We are absolutely targeting the high-level dealer to try to get it out of western Wisconsin. Talking with a sheriff from St. Croix County, they had both methamphetamine and heroin. They had 6 deaths of heroin overdoses in St. Croix County, and they went to the public and made it very public that they've got a problem within their community and they need community support. Like many of our neighbors, our good neighbors here in Eau Claire and Eau Claire County, if they see something, I'm getting calls anonymously, here's some plates of vehicles coming and going from a house, we think there's a drug house. And we're able to tell from that intelligence if it is truly a drug house. And then we work with our drug unit to target that residence to find out who's involved and subsequently get a search warrant. But many times we've done a search warrant and we'll hear the residents say, hey, they're back again, they're back at it. Well, they've fallen off the wagon, and it, like you said, it's hard to get away from this methamphetamine.
Now, you mentioned heroin. Is that becoming a growing problem as well, or?
Knock on wood, thank goodness it isn't right now. We're keeping tabs on it. But again, we're talking with EMT people, our fire response people, because they're doing most of our ambulance service requests in Eau Claire County. Generally, we didn't go to overdoses, but we are now to find out, is it an accidental overdose, or is it methamphetamine, or is it heroin? Heroin overdose is what we see most often, but it's not to the volume that Madison and some of the other cities within Wisconsin are reporting.
Now, you know that all of the counties are looking at reduced state revenues.
Yes.
Now, does this mean, A, that we are having fewer jailers at work, or are they quitting going to other counties, and how's their morale overall?
Well,
that should take you about 10, 15 minutes.
Well, being a correctional officer is one of the toughest jobs in our system, and I think that's where we're very thankful that we keep correctional officers as long as we do. We did have, when we opened the new jail, we were told by the experts in the National Institute of Correction, if you're going to hire 20 people, consider it that half of them are going to wash out or leave, because they'll really find out what the job's all about. Right now, in Eau Claire County, we have taken the marginal people out of our jail, and what we have is the higher level criminal that's in the jail. Some of these people are destined to prison, and we have a higher risk factor in our facility. And the longer it takes to dispose of a case from the time the criminal complaint comes in to disposition, those people spend longer times in jail. We're trying to expedite, especially people on methamphetamine cases. And we're seeing more and more mental health issues come in our jail. We've had to hire a full-time mental health nurse. We have 2 nurses on staff because now we're having medical issues related to drug use and drug abuse. And even the alcoholics that come in, they'll go through DTs, and the nurses can help them through their medical issues. And I'm just really tickled. I mean, you know the fight we went through to get the facility located downtown. It was
I'm a tad familiar with it.
It's 14 years of discussion, and we finally got it done. And we have a health facilities block where people that are high risk, are having high problems with health, we monitor more often. If they're suicidal, we do a 15-minute watch. And we have people from other counties now coming to take a look at our model. It's not only building the jail, but we're diverting people, like Gary King's diverting some of the low-level offenders. If you get caught with marijuana for the first time, if you're a student, whatever, and a low amount, we don't want to criminalize that. We don't want to tarnish that person's record. We want them to have at least one kick at the cat before we get serious. But if you get 2 possessions, then you're probably going to get a misdemeanor charge of possession of marijuana. But we give you an opportunity to, people make mistakes, we know that, but we want to help the people that can self-correct, get through the system and be productive people. That's what our goal in our community is. We want people to be productive. A good thing, I know we had one of the county board members that wanted to close the Huber Center, but the Huber Center really is a transitional to back into the community.
I remember that.
Yeah, that stalled some of our building for a while, but the study came out and said, no, it is an integral part of your community. It's the infrastructure of your community. Don't leave yourself without that. But again, we're probably spending pretty close to over $2 million of alternatives to incarceration.
Okay.
We are saving bed days, but that doesn't necessarily save. It'll save in dollars that we can redirect. I'll put it that way. Okay. Electronic monitoring is working great for the safety of our community. But there are people like sex offenders I won't let out on electronic monitoring. I don't want these people in our residential areas without people knowing that they're there. And we have the ability now, the legislature allowed probation parole to allow the public to know where a sex offender lives in your neighborhood, so you as a parent can be more aware of what's going on.
Now, I'm going to state the obvious, but it has to be stated that working in the jail is dangerous. And there are those people in jail who would love to have the opportunity to beat up a jailer.
It's happened across Wisconsin. We had a serious incident over in Marathon County where a female jailer was struck right in the face, hit her head on the concrete, and that was 2 years ago. I don't believe that she's even been able to come back to work. There has been a hostage situation in Dane County where that they had to go in, and 2 high-level individuals took a female hostage within the jail. We train folks knowing full well how to act during those crisis time, that we will try to send people in to help them, but they have to be patient because we may have to negotiate with that individual the same way we negotiate with people outside as a tactical situation. It is a high-risk job. We have people in there that have all sorts of different communicable diseases and dealing with health-related issues. So again, it is a tough environment to work day in and day out.
And that holds for Eau Claire County as well.
It does. It does. And we've had incidents where we've had jailers assaulted or attacked, and that's why we've allowed our jailers to have a taser in there. We don't allow them to have a weapon, a gun in the facility, but a taser in some less lethal type of action to protect themselves or try to control the situation. We have a Huber dorm where we have no lockable doors except that front door, and if a fight breaks out there, 1 or 2 jailers cannot control that situation. So that's where we'd call in the Eau Claire Police Department and our other staff to come over and help resolve the situation. But we have had a number of jailers that have had issues where they've wrestled with an individual trying to get them back into cuffs and hurt themselves in the process and being off from work.
Now, what about deputies on patrol in the county? Has that level stayed the same? Would you like to see it increased? Of course you would. And what's going on out there?
All the way through our organization, we compared ourselves with Marathon County and La Crosse County for staffing purposes, and we're about 21 people short of an average between those two counties. Each of us have different unique qualities. Like La Crosse has a lot of smaller municipalities that have police officers. Same with Marathon County, but we have Altoona, Fall Creek, Augusta, and Fairchild, and Fairchild and Fall Creek do not have 24-hour coverage. So we, in the Sheriff's Department, if there's a call for service, we have to take it unless it's an ordinance type of violation. We're required under the statute to give those people, as taxpayers, as we should, good police protection 24/7. But the villages sometimes can't afford to have 24-hour law enforcement. So they pick their peak hours and for us too is their peak hours is during the day when the school's on. Like for Fall Creek, we have the high school, middle school there, the elementary school, and you want a police officer on duty in case something happens at the school. They don't have the money for resource officers, like in the city of Eau Claire has resource officers attached. But the resource officers in the city of Eau Claire do a great job working with administration, working with the teachers, working on some of the problem children that they have.
And let's see, are we losing people to other counties because they pay better or they offer better benefits?
We have had, in our correctional field, we did, because they don't have protective status. But I think what's happening, there are a number of changes around the state that are happening. Most of our deputies that have started here have stayed here. I mean, Eau Claire County has treated them pretty well. They've got take-home cars, they've got good benefits, and most of our deputies are working 12-hour shifts, and so they have every other weekend off, which for a family life, the deputies seem to like that schedule. We used to work an 8.5-hour schedule, but it would take you almost 5 weeks to get a weekend off, and that's not good for the family life. We work holidays, we work shift work, and sometimes you lose some of the younger people. The younger people coming to us today, we're told that don't expect them to stay any more than 4 or 5 years because the younger generation is starting to job hop more often because a lot of the kids are coming out of a 4-year degree. They may want to use their degree in another area. So there's a lot of contributing factors, but we've done a really good job at, I think, recruiting and retaining. Eau Claire County just finished a class comp study for wages, and we were compared with other areas, and the jailers did get, under the class comp, quite a big raise. So we'll have to wait and see how that affects them staying, the turnover, and even the morale issue.
Yeah, I understand that this comp study might give us results more positive for the county employees. That's what I've been picking up anyway.
I think so, John. I think the value of there's not much that I can do as sheriff to come up and tell people, hey, you've done a great job. I can pat them on the back. I can give them a letter, but I can't give them a day off with pay. You try to pick out an employee of the month or something like that, and we'll miss something. And so again, and I got to say, I've been in Eau Claire County 39 years, and I wouldn't change a thing. I've enjoyed the people I've had to work with and the folks from the county board. I've had some great, memorable folks that Barry Robinson and some of the folks that were there that gave you a laugh or two. But yeah, I wouldn't change much about the career.
Now, we're going to take a slight detour, but I ask this of just about everybody. Are you now, or have you ever been, a Minnesota Viking fan?
Unfortunately, in our family, I think my older brother was the Minnesota Viking fan, the Minnesota Twins fan, and I don't know if my brother was conceived in Minnesota or my mother dropped him on his head. I don't know what the issue was, but there was a guy in the 60s, he was the tight end for the Packers, number 88, Ron Cramer, and I couldn't help but to be a Green Bay Packer fan.
Thank you very much. You'll be welcome back.
Okay.
Okay. One more question. And let's see. When are you up for re-election? Will you be running to get re-elected? And if so, why? And if not, why?
I'm on my first year of a 4-year term. Things are going well, and if my health stays well, which it is, I think I would go for another term. But I think it's family issues come up. I've got a 94-year-old mother that's in a nursing home, and I have a mother-in-law that's 84. And sometimes you may have just to give up and take time for the family. But right now, things are going well. I love being sheriff. I love the interaction. And right now, I will tell you that I intend to run for the next term. I've been approached to do things like legislature and other things, but I really like Eau Claire over Madison.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all.
No, it's been great, and like I said, I'm an Eau Claire product, and like I said, this building brings back lots of memories. My dad, after World War II, did get hired here. My mom worked here during the ordnance time that they were building for the factory, and as I came up here, taking a look at the security guard force that was here to protect because they were doing government work here. Eau Claire is memorable and intend to stay here.
And you know a thing or two about unions. I know you do.
Well, I started in the union part-time at Coca-Cola, working the night shift, and I was in the union here at Uniroyal, and I was on our negotiating team as a deputy sheriff. So some of the things that I got in or worked with our union with now as the sheriff of saying, we'll solve no crime until it's time and a half. Well, no, that's just that goes without saying. But I've got to see both sides, and the unions have been good for working people, and I understand the need and the respect, and I've had good relationships with Wisconsin WPPA, and it's a two-way street. So we've got to work together on problems, and we've solved a lot of problems working together.
Now, is there anything else you'd like to add? You've got 30 seconds.
Well, number one, I got to thank you for your time on the county board and what you did behind the scenes as far as asking me where are the problem areas in your budget, what would you like to see? And we like that of our county board folks, to reach out, give us the good and give us the bad.
That's our job.
Yeah, and I think you guys are, you guys, your job is to look down the road, and you're the people that look forward and see where we're going.
Well, my thanks to Ron for being on Labor Talks, and of course, my thanks to our viewing audience. After all, if it wasn't for Ron and our viewing audience, we wouldn't have Labor Talks. Now, if you appreciate Chippewa Valley Community Television, please contact your respective legislators and let them know. Labor Talks can be seen on YouTube and Channel 993 every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. and every Saturday at 12:30 p.m. That's Channel 993. And as far as YouTube is concerned, you just Google YouTube, YOUTUBE, and Labor Talks, and we'll be there. And thank you very much.